Welcome to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And good day. Thank you for joining us. I'm Tamara Scott. We're glad you could tune in for Truth for Our Time, where we help you live God's Word in today's world. We help you when the headlines hit home, because if He expects you to live through it, He's directed you how to do it somewhere in His Word. So we always enjoy bringing you the latest stories, the latest controversies, and then finding that peace of mind of what God has shown you to do somewhere in the mix. This morning on the media, I don't know if you heard, they're warning people about Zika now hitting America. Zika now coming to America with the mosquitoes. And I can't remember what channel I was watching, but they were saying that women should delay pregnancy. And I howled out loud. Now, honestly, we want the best for every child. We want the best for every woman. But did you know on this show, Dr. Gary Cole has told you time and again, and we have brought up the search results, the birth defects that you have seen, the head enlargements, when you do a search for the Zika virus and you see those photos of the babies with the large heads or the deformations, Gary has told you those may occur, but that's not necessarily a Zika virus. Because they may happen at the same time may not mean that they're related. And so what he fears more is the vaccinations that they're giving women in prevention of some of these things. So I just caution you, do as you wish. We don't tell you what to do on this show. We present the information, allow you to make your own decision. God gave you free will. I do too. But we want to get the information to you. He called it one of the biggest propaganda busts going on in our time right now. So you just need to be careful and be wise and consider all the aspects. But Dr. Gary Cole, if you want information on that, the Duluth Reader is the newspaper, and you can find several of his articles there. Also, today is the day of silence in many schools. I don't know how many schools in Iowa are participating, but many parents decided to keep their kids home. If they're not going to learn something valuable, why send them and waste a day? This is a day when people put tape over their mouths and they refuse to speak on behalf of those who supposedly have no voice. But if you've heard listening lately, if you've been listening at all, the homosexual movement seems to have great voice. Great voice. No longer are the days when you can say someone is victimized because of that. In fact, now it is the opposite with bakers, decorators, photographers, and now people who just want to go to the restroom with their own gender. It's amazing when you think about all these things. Scratch your head, right? People are probably more highly educated than they've been in decades, and now we don't know. One, boys can't figure out where their pants go. Apparently they don't know where their waistline is. And girls and boys can't tell what sex they are. So it's amazing how far we've come in this age of academic achievement. All right, joining me today, I'm excited to have in studio someone I have admired for a very long time, Senator Brad Zahn, right here in the local Des Moines area. Thank you for being with us.
It's an honor to be on your program and good to see you.
How long have you been in the Senate?
This is my 12th year.
This is your 12th year? Okay, so I remember 2006, was that your first? Mm-hmm. And I just want to do this. I do this every time, and I apologize, but I want our listeners to know the courage you came in with. We had bills coming forward. It had been exposed, the horrible sex ed curriculum that was just so embarrassing to so many. It's not biology anymore. It's not reproduction. It's flat out sex ed, and even porn is what we could call it in some areas and instances. You were new. You were new.
That was one of my first years.
And Concerned Women for America got the information to you through channels, and you went to the gallery. Do you want to tell the story? You want me to tell the story?
Well, you probably do a better job.
I'll tell the story because you're too humble. You went up to the gallery. There was a family up there, and you explained what you were about to do, and that they might want to leave or at least have the kids out of the chamber before you did this. And then you went back down to the floor, and on the microphone you stood and you explained, and you went through details, and you went through terms, and I don't know if you flashed the photos. You've read the curriculum. It was a hush.
Yeah.
People were embarrassed. These are adults who were embarrassed.
Yeah.
Imagine how much more the 5th and 6th graders.
Right. If I recall, it was for 3rd graders.
3rd graders?
Yeah.
World Magazine did a story on you. Did you ever know that?
I don't recall.
You are so stinking humble, Bradzon. World Magazine did a story on you, and of course they had Concerned Women for America in there because of our work, and Beverly LaHaye, or Janice Krause at the time, had done great work at the federal level on that as well. But I want to thank you once again. I want our listeners to know, when you're trying to raise your families and you're busy just trying to make ends meet the bills, get kids to schedules, Bradzon is there fighting for you.
Well, thank you for saying that. You know, my intentions were that day was to get called a point from the other side. And I know that it was very offensive what I was saying. I was hesitant to do it, but I was trying to get across to everybody, if it offends you, think of what it does for 3rd graders. And unfortunately, we didn't get this stopped. I remember the floor manager, Joe Bolcom, that was running that, and it was just it's a sad day. And certainly I echo what you said in regards to what's happened in education. I'm very passionate about education, and I guess I'm getting beat up in the paper today over, throwing more money to a broken education system that we have right now. I certainly know that there is some good public schools out there, but there's a lot more of them that are bad. And obviously, I'm very passionate about school choice. And if we would have let parents have the ability to pick what school they were, the people that would benefit the most would be very low-income people, because they're stuck in these terrible schools. But anyway, that's not why I'm here today. But
let's talk about that a little bit, because you're right. So unfortunately, people pay their hefty property tax, which goes much to the school district, and then they pay a tuition fee that's usually quite pricey to go to a private school. And some can't afford to have a parent stay home and homeschool. So you're right. The family that suffers the most is the one who can't afford to pay all those taxes and tuition on top of it.
Right.
School choice would allow parents to actually be parents, to be the authority, and to make the decisions for their children.
Right. And I'm not trying to manipulate where parents send their kids to school. I mean, I'm open-minded to, if there's a really good public school, homeschooling, certainly the non-public schools. Minorities and low-income people will be the biggest beneficiaries of an education savings account, which is what I'm advocating for, which is school choice. I said on the floor earlier this year, throwing more money at our public schools has not solved the problem in the past. In particular, I stated what has been provided to me by the Federal Department of Education, that in the state of Iowa, there has been a 2% increase in enrollment the last 10 years. At that same time, there was a 14% increase in teachers, new teachers, and a 28% increase in administrators. It's just the money that we're sending doesn't necessarily go to the classrooms.
Right.
We have the best teachers in the nation here. We've got a broken curriculum, which is a whole nother curriculum, another thing we could talk about. But with that said, we really have not gained anything in regards to student performance, whereas 62% of every tax dollar goes to education in the state of Iowa. To say that education is not a priority is absolutely not true. And unfortunately, it's going to take a change in leadership at the Capitol and a strong governor. I hope that we're able to get into the majority next year in the Iowa Senate. If we are, that is a top priority for us, and it should be for all of us, to make sure that we do this right and give parents a choice in regards to where they send their kids to school.
Give us that figure again of how much of every dollar in Iowa goes to education.
62% of every dollar that comes into our treasury goes to education.
Chip Baltimore joined us last week, and he very succinctly went through the projected budget increase that you're supposed to get, $180 million, and the fact that 150 of that, this is projected. This isn't money you have in the bank. This is what they hope will come in above what the budget was this year. So it's a guessing game. So first off, you've got the counting your eggs before they're hatched idea, or chicks before they're hatched. 150 million of that, 180 million of that 150 has already gone to education, leaving your judicial system, your law enforcement, your DNR, your agriculture, water, safety, all of those other issues that really need addressing.
87% of any projected new dollars is going to education. So it doesn't leave, we've got mental health priorities that need to be fulfilled. Like you mentioned, the clean water. We're getting pulled by a lot of different people. And there is priorities we need to solve here in the state of Iowa. And unfortunately, just because of the unions and the amount of power that they have at the Capitol, they get. Actually, what's being printed out there with the media is it's a 2.25% increase, which is not entirely accurate because there is $150 million going into K through 12, but you're not taking into consideration the other $50 million for the teacher mentoring program. You're not taking into consideration, they're projecting, and this is good for Iowa, that there's going to be a 2% increase in enrollment next year. So when you calculate everything together, it's actually a 5.25% supplemental aid package that was given to the schools.
And yet what we usually hear is they call it a decrease or a cut because they didn't get as much more as they wanted. Not that anything was cut or taken away. They just didn't get as much of an increase as they wanted. Where do they think that 2% increase in student enrollment is going to come from?
I haven't dug into that. I was just told that they're estimating a 2% increase. Obviously, there was a little population jump in the state of Iowa, which I'm happy about. But it's just unfortunate that we are not going to be able to take care of some of the other priorities, such as mental health care, which I'm very passionate about. And then, of course, we're talking about water quality right now. We need to provide people that are in agriculture, the tools and the necessary funds to be able to do the buffering and cover crops and that kind of stuff.
All right. Brad's on as my guest. Brad, what district is it you have?
20. And
Senate
that represents Urbandale, Johnston, and Grimes. Okay.
We are going to start talking about the Honey Creek.
Okay.
I think that I am probably the only radio talk show host that has been talking about this since it began. Mm-hmm. With Jan Michelson currently out away from the microphone right now.
Yeah.
I think I am the longest, the talk show host that probably is the only talk show host that talked about this at its origin.
Yep. Well, I appreciate that. And by the way, I just saw Jan a couple of weeks ago. All your listeners need to pray for him. He's in China right now and taking a special treatment. I'm not going to mention what it is, but
in China.
In China. I'll tell you off the air.
Okay. Well, do. As Mac says, pause and pray. And as Mac says, I hope I'm getting this right. I got to, you know how you get those texts and they flash by your phone and you really didn't click on it, but you think that's what it said? Mac's 57th birthday is today.
I know that. I wished him happy birthday on Facebook this morning.
As we freeze in the studio out of respect for Mac.
Feels good in here.
This is how Mac likes it. I don't care what time of year it is. That's how Mac likes it. So let's talk Honey Creek. For those of you who don't know, and Chris, I have some links up there. If you want to go ahead and put one of those on, let me see if I can get into my little iPad for my own notes. In 2000 was the origin when they started talking about this nasty idea, this unconstitutional, horrible, rotten idea. If I were quick, I would have the clip from The Grinch where they go through all those adjectives and describing the Grinch. This is absolutely what Honey Creek is. It's rotten, horrible, should not be part of our government in any way. What basis did they ever think, and I can see I'm already coming to a break, so you can think this through over the break. When did the government ever think that they should enter the arena of being in private industry or trying to compete against those who are in the hotel industry and the DNR running a hotel? So we'll be right back with these messages as I talk with Senator Brad Zahn right here in the studio. Stay tuned for more Truth for Our Time, Webcast One Live and 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and
Chris,
it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back if you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And thanks for staying tuned. I am Tamara Scott. You are listening to Truth for Our Time on 99.3 FM. We thank them for sharing the air. And Webcast One Live Studios. If you want to hear the show live, you can watch, view, talk, call in 515-244-0077, 244-0077. And we do the show at 10 a.m. on Fridays. That's a little bit of a switch. We're switching to Fridays. I have to remember last night, my husband said, "What time are you heading out in the morning?" And I thought, I don't know. I remembered we're doing the show now Friday. So 10 a.m. And today, so if you want to watch the show, some of you from work, I know, watch while you're working. I don't know how that goes with your boss, but I like the idea. And then others of you wait for the noon show, and I know I get your text and your messages at noon, so thank you so much for listening. If you know a sponsor who might consider coming on and giving us their sponsorship, let us know. We'd love to have that. If you want to stay tuned at 11 o'clock, joining me today, Holly Wagner from Los Angeles will be joining me. She's doing a women's event called She Rises out at Adobe Theater that we see all the Academy Awards and all those big fancy shows. She did the first Christian event there, and she's doing another one this summer with Beth Moore. And then Trevor Loudon. Do you know Trevor Loudon?
No, I do not.
He's actually staying in Iowa right now working on a film. And I heard him speak at Jones County Republican event, and so he's going to be joining me. We're going to pre-tape because I'm out of state next week for RNC.
Okay.
I'm there being the big RNC that people are so mad at. What people don't get is these rules that you're seeing, it will be voted on by the folks in Iowa that we elected to the Rules Committee. It's not the folks who sit on the RNC. It's going to be the delegates that you elected that go to the Rules Committee. So folks, be careful. Every vote matters, and being involved is what makes a difference. And last week, we had several. I made it to all 4 district conventions in Iowa. I was really proud of myself, even more so that I did not get a speeding ticket. And so, yeah, it took much prayer through the day. And so my fellow Iowans elected their fellow Iowans to go and represent them. And we were not going to talk about that today, but Brad, I appreciate what you do, everything you do for the party and what you do for Iowa. You are one of our guardians.
I got beat bad at the convention for delegate.
You did. And I have a concern. As National Committee woman, I represent all of Iowa, and all of Iowa should have a voice that reflects, in my opinion, the caucus. So it's a little concerning because in November, no matter who you supported now, in November, we need to be thinking how we're going to bring this party together.
I agree with you.
Deborah Wasserman Schultz said today that there's a civil war brewing inside the party, and I've been telling people for some time there's no civil war here. You can see all the people coming, a record turnout at the caucus, a record turnout at events. It is not that it's a civil war. It is a war for the heart and the soul of this nation. You know why? Because the Democrats sold out a long time ago, proof when they couldn't even decide whether or not to let God back in their own convention in 2012. So the battle has settled right here in the Republican Party, and that's why you see these rifts going back and forth, because we are fighting for the very core, the heart and soul of this nation. And if we fail as a Republican Party, this republic will fail. There is no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. All right, getting back topic at hand, Honey Creek. So while Vilsack was governor, a not very bright spot in our budget, in our economic state, in our things, as a rule, he started looking at this idea because he wanted the state, where was it? I saw that quote. He wanted the state to be involved. He wanted the state to offer these services, which are not the state's to offer.
I agree. I remember when this all happened. It's when, some of the earlier years in the Senate, I actually did one of the few that voted against Honey Creek. Didn't believe that, and never do believe that government should compete with private industry. If that was such a great opportunity for business would be down there.
Right.
They would have developed that project, and of course they couldn't find anybody. And not being disrespectful, it's a beautiful part of the state of Iowa. Lake Rathbun's a beautiful lake. I've been down there before. So, I was very upset about the way this was all handled. Immediately, what happened is we were losing at least $1 million a year. $1.5
million is what I saw. And then, by the way, it was $58 million to build.
Right, correct.
$33.5 million in bonds. Mm-hmm. And I remember in 2006, 2007, Deborah Thornton from Public Interest Institute did several shows with me on the bad idea that this was. Rathbun, there's a beautiful picture for those of you who are watching. Rathbun was built in the 1960s, and at that point they created and offered incentives for private investors, but no one would come.
Correct.
Because, as Deborah said on this show or several studios ago, that feasibility studies, it's not going to make it. You're not on a beaten path. You're out of the way. It's not going to be a destination location.
Mm-hmm. And I've never been there, to be fair. I haven't been down there. I've been told it's a beautiful place. But, we've constantly been dumping taxpayers' money to subsidize this entity. And what's really unfortunate, or what's fortunate now is I've been told the bonds are finally paid for. Okay,
$33.5 million in bonds.
The good news is now we're not pouring money into that. I know that the DNR went out and got a third party to manage the place, and let's hope that it, is a good return on it. It won't be a good return on investment, but that we're not in a. I think Senator McCoy called it a black hole. It is a black hole. And
very few times do I find myself cheering him on.
He's been someone that's been
right on
very
this.
Vocal about this. And he and I have co-sponsored bills just to sell the place for whatever we could get out of it. I assume that there would be somebody in the hospitality industry that would come in and buy it if they could buy it for 10 cents on the dollar or whatever that is.
Which is a shame to taxpayers. Yeah, it's almost criminal.
It should have never been done from the beginning. But with that said, I know that I think they showed that there was a little bit of profit here this last year that they were in operation. Well, I mean, there's no bond payment to make. I mean, if they had a resort that was paid for, let's hope that they're going to make some money
off of it.
But anyway, it's just unfortunate. It's a great example of a government just going into an area that they shouldn't be in. It was a waste of taxpayers' money. It still is a waste of taxpayers' money, and unfortunately, we're stuck with it. And so I think the DNR has decided that they'd try to find another company, I think out of Minnesota or somewhere.
Delaware North Companies.
Yeah, that they're going to manage the place. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they can crank some more cash out of it so we can throw that money to education and
it just
mental health and
it irritates me to no end because we're seeing photos. It's gorgeous, right? But as someone who has friends and relatives in the hotel business and is forced to pay these things through the nose, not to mention taxes at a huge amount, and get the city's approval on everything. To see government go through this and be exempt from a lot of things, I think. I'd have to go back through the code, but I think there was things for exemption in there, so I assume. And then this public-private partnership, Tom DeWeese warns us all the way through. We should never have public-private partnerships. You're deciding what private entities will be the winners and who will be the losers. And they're asking Kelly Myers and I tried to call the DNR and I couldn't get through. Conservative, she's the Conservation and Recreation Administrator for the Iowa DNR. And it says, looking at finding a partner, this is her quote, who could invest in the property with depth, with the department still running it as a state park, but bringing private investment and their expertise to the table to operate the resort. Okay, first off, I don't know why a private investor would come in and let the state run it, because governments usually don't run things very well.
Yeah, they do a terrible job.
So I can't imagine yet how this is going to work.
Yeah. Well, in the saga continues, because here in Polk County, us taxpayers are going to be in the hotel business down by the
competing
Wells Fargo,
against those
correct?
of us taxpayers, funding our own competition.
This just goes on and on. I mean, you look at the Newton Raceway, you look at the Dyersville Field of Dreams. What we've done, and maybe your listeners aren't familiar with this, is we've created, I voted against it, but we've created opportunities for these governmentally subsidized businesses, which should be owned by private individuals and corporations, where they capture all the sales tax in the area. Which is not going into our state coffers, which obviously is going to have effect on our revenues. But we did that with downtown Des Moines hotel that's going in. I feel terrible for you and all the other people out there that are paying property taxes, because there will be no property. So they have an unfair advantage over everyone out there that's actually paying the bills, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you've got the same thing on the Newton Raceway, went bankrupt, Prairie Meadows. The list just goes on and on and on. And so it's just wrong that we're doing this. We in the legislature, I would actually target more the Democrats and the Republicans are the ones that are pushing all these initiatives, because they can't get private investors to come in and build a Newton Raceway, or get someone to build a hotel right down there by Wells Fargo Arena for some reason. And I don't know, probably because the acquisition of the land or whatever.
They'd do it. Yes. If it were a good idea, they would be bidding wars for somebody wanting to do it.
We should be just stepping away from this and let the market happen. So it's very unfortunate, and let's hope that this new company that they've hired to manage this facility knows what they're doing, which I doubt they do.
And so, disclaimer for those of you out there, I have friends who are in the hotel business. I admit it. Hotel on the South Side built by a World War II veteran who came back entrepreneurially and saw the land, thought it was a good idea, put his lifeblood in it, didn't even take a paycheck for I don't know how many years putting that together with friends from the South Side. The Tercys came in behind him. Other groups came in behind him to help, because this is how you did it back then. You didn't have economic development and handouts and tax incentives. Right. Your neighborhood came in, and then they supported you to make sure that you made it as well. It was a group effort, which is the way it's supposed to be. And that hotel now is competing against this hotel that's going to get, what is it, 20 to 30 million?
I don't recall what it is, but it's too much.
And the biggest competition they have is the event center, which is also tax exempt. It's the state run. So you're competing against your own tax dollars. It is so frustrating. And yes, this one's personal for me.
Yep. It should be.
We warned people back in 2006, 7, and 8. Deborah Thornton and myself, Public Interest Institute, wrote papers on it. The government should have never gotten into this. Mark Shelgren has been another one who has come alongside and said, sell this. It's unconstitutional for us to even be involved in this.
It's very unique, because that's right by his Senate district.
And as you say, Rathbun is beautiful.
Right.
And as Deborah Thornton pointed out years ago, if they wanted to do something like this, why not do a camping area that fits with the landscape? Because now what you've done is you've taken this beautiful wooded area and turned it into a metropolis-type villa. And if the rest of us don't want to go there and get away.
Right. And I was also told that to rent one of their cabins is really, really very expensive and higher than the market rate. And, it's a disaster is what it is.
All right. Other issues facing the Senate, other things you've done that you're proud of, concerned about this year?
Proud of nothing.
Maybe what you stopped? Sometimes it's not what you did, it's what you stopped.
I can't recall. This has been a pretty quiet year.
It has been.
We really haven't done a lot of good things. We are about to spend more money than we should. Since I wrote my newsletter yesterday, since I've started in the Iowa Senate, our budget was $4.3 billion, and it's going to probably be around 7.3 when we're done at the end of next week. Hopefully we'll be done by the end of next week. So it's a $3 billion growth in government since I've been there in 12 years.
And that's with a Republican governor, Republican House.
Well, that is correct. I mean, we've been there 4 years now. Governor Branstad, or 5 years. Governor Branstad's been in charge, and we need to act like Republicans. But to be fair, I do recognize that the House and the governor has to negotiate with the third, the money-hungry Democrats, and so it's just very frustrating. We really didn't do anything for small business. We did not do anything for any kind of job growth, or we didn't even even consider shrinking any kind of department or any part of government in the state of Iowa. That's why these elections are so important. When we, hopefully, if we do get in the majority, then we need to really look at prioritize what services people in Iowa expect. And then we need to look at cutting the size of government, because we cannot no longer be able to sustain the amount of spending that we're doing. And most importantly, if you look at what's going on the federal level and the deficit spending that's going on there, people don't realize we will spend $7.4 billion this year, but another $7 billion will come in from the federal government. And when the China banks call and say that we're done, you're not getting any more money, the first place that our Congress will look at is probably cutting all the funding going to the states. So we should really have a rainy day fund. That's the other part that's very troubling. We did have $1 billion in our reserves, which is estimated to be under $100 million at the end of this year.
We've really gone through it. We'll be right back after these messages with Brad Zahn.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Welcome back to
And I am Tamara Scott. You are listening to Truth for Our Time, helping you live God's Word in today's world. I'm here with Senator Brad Zahn, Senate District 20, Polk County, and we are thrilled to have him in the Senate fighting for us. You up for election this year?
Yes, I am.
So, do you ever look for parade walkers or people to help you?
Yeah, we're going to have some parades, and I have a very respectable opponent this fall, so I'm going to have to work hard.
You are always so polite.
Yeah, my wife and I have met her, and she's a military veteran, and she's gonna give me a run for my money.
So I will just say to you, don't get caught up. This is so true in all of the elections. Don't get caught up in the wrappings. Maybe she's a veteran. Maybe she's solid. But if she's on the Democratic Party, she will not be able to support life.
Yeah.
She will not be able to support marriage and get anywhere. They will shut her down. She'll not get any committee appointments. They will shut her down. So if those issues are important to you, she may be tremendous, a wonderful person. We may love her to pieces. But I need to understand the war at hand and the battle lines have been drawn.
And I totally understand that, and I'm assuming this is all true. Don't know where she's at on anything. But I'm going to do what I can and am committed to running as tough as a campaign as I can and work as hard as I can. And God willing, I'll be back for another 4 years. But this will be it. I'm done after this.
I know you tried that last time we begged you to run again because when we know we have somebody there fighting for us, Iowans appreciate it, and we want you back there again. So thank you so much to listeners. If you want to tag along there, you've got somebody who fights for you. He could use your help now. On the line is Evan Sinclair joining us. Evan works in the Senate. He clerks for the wonderful Senator Amy Sinclair. Evan, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Tamara. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being on.
And you clerk for Amy Sinclair, related to?
That is correct. That happens to be my mom. That I've had the pleasure of working there in the Senate with her for 3 years now.
And what a perfect, wonderful opportunity when she came into the Senate to bring you with as her clerk. How old were you, if I can ask, when you came in to clerk for her?
Well, so she had a guy her first year who worked on the campaign and came in the first year. But he moved on to bigger and better things. So then I moved in the second year when I was 18.
And you're graduating now from Simpson this year.
Simpson this year. Mm-hmm. And hopefully moving on to bigger and better things myself, like Chris did.
And so what I appreciate about Evan is I bring government students to the Capitol every year. And we show them the beautiful building, the chambers. We explain how things happen, how they can call senators and representatives out. We take them over to the Supreme Court. But at the state capitol, the treat is to get to go up to the dome, outside, and walk around. And there are not a lot of people who want to do those steps. And Evan, being a fit young adult, is always eager and willing. And thank you. I appreciate you taking time out to do that for my students.
Nope, I love it. It really gives me the opportunity to show off such a beautiful building, and especially with your group. I don't do it with most, but especially with your group, I get to talk a little bit more about how I feel about state politics and what's happening here in the state of Iowa, and even nationwide culturally.
And that landed you on the show today because you made some comments to the students that I just thought were so poignant. We were in the dome looking out the glass, and we were talking about what government is and what it's supposed to be and what it's not. And can you remember what you said to them?
Sure. So we were first, I took them outside, and we were talking about the building and just how this building represents our bastion of freedom, how it represents our Greco-Roman roots in our pursuit of a republic, a democratic republic, but a republic nonetheless, and how this building is here and is beautiful and represents the freedom that I'd hope all 150 legislators are fighting for. So then we moved back inside, and I wanted to talk to them a little bit more about something that's close to my heart, which is what I'm seeing as a growing partisan divide, how we are continuing to take more and more line in the sand stances, and we are playing political games instead of really governing here at the state level.
You're absolutely right, and you almost make me feel bad for some of my comments earlier on this show. The truth is there are very real differences in the parties and in the philosophies of the parties. But as you've seen when you're in the chambers, as Brad Zahn has seen when he's working with folks, he's said he's done bills with Senator McCoy, Democrat, you reach a class, and this is what I keep encouraging as National Committee woman. I keep encouraging folks, you have differences with everyone around you, those who sit across the dinner table from you. You have differences. If you focus on those differences, if we continue to draw out those things, those, multicultural diversities that everyone wants to exalt, we will never be able to come together as a group.
And you know what? There are important line in the sand issues. Life is one of them in my mind. We should always be taking steps closer to a perfect pro-life society. However, I think it's detrimental to our cause and detrimental to millions of babies when we take stances to say all or nothing.
Right.
I think it's important to work our way there. I think beyond that, there are lots of issues that we can work across the aisle on. Human trafficking over the last couple of years has been a big topic here in the Iowa legislature, and that is a nonpartisan topic and requires us to work across the aisle. One that does get a little more partisan, and one that I see a whole lot. Senator Mom is on the ranking member on the Education Committee, so I get to deal with a lot of the policy there. And it always seems like education and education funding in particular is turned into this partisan battle. And that is not the way to properly govern. What they're doing there is political games. When last year we have legislators' faces on wanted posters put out on the Senate Democrats' Facebook page, when we have legislators put on wanted posters for not properly funding education, those are political games. And what I strive to see, what I love to see, and I do see several, specifically there in the Senate, I do see several Republican and Democrat legislators working to promote a good education environment here in the state. But we need to be working towards a compromise, towards good policy on both sides that accommodates both sides of the issue. And I don't think we're there yet. Funding is not supposed to be a Republican-Democrat issue. We both parties want good schools, whether that be public schools, private schools, or even homeschooling, which I participated in 2 of the 3 of those. We want good policy that promotes all of them, and instead I feel that we're in an environment right now where we just make political games of good education.
You made a comment, and I'm not going to remember the way you phrased it, but about being statesman versus manipulating government to help a party or an election outcome.
So yeah, I got to talk to the kids. Your couple of gals from your high school class there at the Dome, and that was one of the comments I made. I was specifically talking. I don't remember what issue, but yeah, we have turned our legislators into politicians as opposed to statesmen, in order to provide for the next best election outcome for the party. And you know what, elections are important. We were talking to Brad. You were talking to Brad Zahn earlier, and we're not going to get good pro-life policy. We're not going to get good fiscally conservative policy if we're going to have a majority of Democrats in the Senate, because they just don't allow it to come up.
Right.
But in the meantime, there still is governing to do. We can't wait until 2017 to start governing properly. We need to be taking steps now to start governing properly. And when all we're doing is working to create the best election outcome for the next election cycle, and only taking these partisan issues, we are just politicians and manipulators trying to vie for media attention and how the public perception. But when we take time to really govern and to think about the issues, then we have moved into statesmen. Then we can look back at history and look at great statesmen over time. One of my favorites, I guess, would be Henry Clay, known as the Great Compromiser, which seems to be a bad word in modern politics, but I think compromise is at the root of being a good statesman. Not on your values. Never compromise on your values, but compromising on the method to attain the best outcome for Iowa and for the United States in general.
Evan, Thank you for joining us. I appreciate the words that you've shared with us. I appreciate the wisdom that you've gained in your short time in the Senate chamber. We've got to go to break. For those of you who are listening, Evan Sinclair was my guest. Amy Sinclair is a senator, his mother. What is the area she has, the 3 counties?
Well, so she has 6 counties: Wayne, Decatur, Clark, Lucas, most of Marion County except for Pella, and she has 4 townships in southern Jasper County, and then she is up for election this year.
Very good. You added in before the break. We'll be right back after these messages. My thanks to Evan Sinclair and Senator Brad Zahn. We'll be right back with more Truth for Our Time, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back if you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And thank you for staying tuned with us. I am Tamara Scott. You're listening to Truth for Our Time on 99.3 FM. You can watch us, join us live online Fridays at 10 at Webcast One Live Studios. So in studio today, Senator Brad Zahn. I was with one of your buddies last night.
Okay, Dan, yeah.
Senator Dan Zumbach. One of the nicest guys, he seems like,
very
right?
Nice.
And
great for his wife.
Yes. Yep. Yes, she had an appointment, he said.
Yep.
Okay. So, of all the things we've talked about, there's still so much more going on. And we tend to get caught up in like a presidential election. And my concern is that while we're so busy, especially in Iowa, being the first in the nation, and I do believe we should stay first in the nation, it's got to start somewhere, and we have the most financial accessible as far as media and travel, et cetera, and grounded people who are proven that they are not right, left. They will go either a Barack Obama or a G.W. Bush. Yeah. I mean, so, but sometimes I feel like we get so caught up in the parade of possibilities that those who are all elected are killing us while we're not paying attention. It's got to be frustrating for you. You're doing everything you can at the state level. I know your wife allows you. It's a sacrifice for families. And my thanks to your wife for supporting you like she does.
Hard on the family, but it is a privilege for myself.
So what would you say to families out there? I mean, it's so frustrating that, I don't know if you're aware, in Texas last week, we talked about it on the show, a principal, Magnolia School District, told parents that she would have them arrested if they walked their children to school. She didn't want them on school property. Yeah, they're welcome to come volunteer in the class at her leisure, but you can find stories on it, Fox News, Breitbart, Magnolia School District outside of Houston. We talked about it on the show, and there's a link I've put on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page, which, by the way, if you want some of these archives, we do have tamarascott.com, and I try and get the links up there on tamarascott.com for you. She actually sent constable to someone's house.
Wow.
To threaten her.
What are they hiding would be my reaction. And I think that's really unfortunate. This is public's money. It should be everything should be open books. Anytime there's public funds put into any kind of organization or segment of government, it's open books. I mean, you should be able to stop by. I think it's unfortunate, and I was not aware of that.
Right here in Texas, in New York, they passed a bill that we didn't want partial birth abortion because it's messy. Now that we admit what it is. So now they passed a bill that you could put a needle into the heart of the baby to poison the baby.
It's disgusting.
And then another one out west, more, what's the word I'm looking for, compassionate, that you would now have anesthesia for the baby before you killed the baby. This is America. It blows my mind that this is the better that we can do.
I got on the floor earlier in the session and talked about what happened down in Oklahoma with Planned Parenthood and how they ripped off Oklahoma passed legislation defunding Planned Parenthood because of what happened in Northwest Iowa. I don't recall the individual person.
Susan Thayer.
Yes, and how they obviously turned in more receipts.
Yes, fraud
through Medicaid, our tax dollars. And how the state of Oklahoma defunded their Planned Parenthood based on what happened in Iowa. And I said, forget Planned Parenthood for a moment. We, as senators, have a responsibility to taxpayers. Any other organization that would have done this, they'd been thrown on the street. They wouldn't get a dime from our Medicaid system. And of course, now with what we know in regards to all the videos that we're talking about how they're selling baby parts, which is absolutely disgusting, why we're not having a conversation. And the reason why we're not is because they're Planned Parenthood. They could obviously they get away with murder because that's what they do. They slaughter babies. Right. But it's and you know what? It's just very frustrating. Where did the common sense go? I can tell you where it all went. When God left, the good Lord left our society, which is what we're pushing out, not we.
Yeah, and he didn't leave. We kicked him out.
Right.
And he's still there for those who will call on him.
Deterioration of everything you can look reflective in our societies and everything. But I did talk about that and didn't get one response out of anybody. And, now I'll tell you the big thing to watch the next week is what we're going to do with this Planned Parenthood money. Is the governor going to have the courage to defund Planned Parenthood? We have so many great organizations, and I named all of them on the Senate floor here in the state of Iowa that help young parents out. And certainly, we're not saying, listen, it's not about funding for all the services for women that women expect and go to these places for. We need to fund those, but they cannot be funded through Planned Parenthood with what their track record is and what they've done. And that'll be the real thing for people to watch this next week.
And this is the week.
This is the week.
So they might want to email their legislators and just tell them to hold strong?
Just hold strong. I mean, this is obvious. I believe it's going to probably start in the House, the Health and Human Services budget, and then it'll come over to the Senate. And will they cave or will they not cave?
And those numbers are 515-281-3221, I believe is the House, 515-281, and is it 3711 that's the Senate?
3371.
3371. I always mess up something in that number, 3371. And so let's clarify. On those clinics, it wouldn't be that we're taking away care for women. There are already 210 clinics, many more than Planned Parenthood, throughout the state of Iowa who qualify for the Medicaid money, who give more services, so it's more comprehensive care. Because there are more of them, they're more generally located, so lower income women can get to them more easily without the travel expense. So we're not taking away anything from women or women's care.
A lot of them have more services than what Planned Parenthood provides. I mean, I didn't know this until recently. Planned Parenthood does not do mammograms.
Never did. CWA did a sting on that in Iowa a couple years back. You know, Denise Bubeck and myself. Yep. We called several of the clinics. We had to do it all at once because they're so well organized. Right. And all of them, without a doubt, told us, we will not give you a mammogram. And we said, what if we need one? We're low income. What if we need one? We'll send you somewhere else. Yeah. Will it be to another Planned Parenthood clinic? No. No Planned Parenthood clinic has that. Now think that through. I don't have the figure in front of me. I think they get 127 million a day with all the grants and everything. Don't go back and look that up, but I think it's 1.4 billion that they have in assets. Check those figures out on Susan B. Anthony's fact sheet. You can find them for yourself. Don't try and say I'm misquoting it. But they have that much money, and they've never bought the mammogram because they're not concerned about women's health. They are not. I see the clock. We've got to go. Brad's on. Thank you for being my guest.
It's an honor to be here.
Appreciate what you do. You have been given great information. Call your legislators next week and tell them to hold firm on the money. Send it somewhere good. Be encouraged. Never be complacent.